What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new podcast with myself, JB, the Ultimate Writer, and my co-host, Dan the Hangman Hooker.
Yeah, guys, welcome, Butch. It's gonna be good. We got a lot to say, so let's delve right into it.
Yeah, awesome. It's like Dan said, we do have a lot to say. It's not going to be like the usual sort of podcast that you might have seen from us in the past. It's going to be more of a discussion podcast. So with that, welcome to The Writer and the Fighter with myself and Dan Hooker. And first thing, your highlights or takes from UFC 202, Dan.
Yeah, there were some real some interesting things. People calling it an instant classic or the next Bonner Griffin. I think that kind of fight does have that impact, you know, when it is built up to that such a new audience, because such a new audience tuned in to watch that fight, and it was built up to be this war and this brawl, and they hated each other, and there was the whole Bad Blood series leading into it, and it really did turn out, you know, a back and forth exchange, both guys getting bloodied, both guys getting beat up on the feet. And so it lived up to the hype. So I think we might be seeing that second coming of the Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner kind of series, where that sparked interest for a lot of people. They point to that fight in history as being one of the big turning points for MMA. So I think we might be looking at another one here where the mainstream audience has just kind of gravitated towards the sport now. They've seen the excitement level of the sport, and they want to keep coming back for more, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, even if you just take the first and the second fight, you know, Diaz, McGregor 1 and 2, those fights were vastly different. And, you know, even those two fights show people the versatility of the sport and how much a fighter can grow from one fight to the next, you know, when it's only a matter of months. I really enjoyed the fight. I agree with you. I thought it was definitely in that realm of an instant classic, you know, throwback to the original Tough series. And yeah, I thought it was brilliant. The fight itself, the main event, I thought was great. It was like just a 25-minute war, and it had me on the edge of my seat. Yeah,
well, like what you were saying about there being a different result and that happening so quickly, that's what people need to understand, that they could have done this fight 10 times over and had 10 different results, you know, just because we look back at the McGregor Aldo and he knocked him out in 13 seconds. If we do that fight 100 more times, does that happen again exactly like that? And I don't think it does. You know, that's a perfect storm and a perfect scenario. But I think with these new fans, and if you follow the sport for even a small period of time, you understand that everybody is human. Everybody has weaknesses. Stylistically, there's no way you can be a perfect matchup for every guy. Some guys are just have other guys' numbers, or some guys are equally, and it can go any way. It can go, one guy's gets subbed, they fight again. The other guy gets knocked out, they go again. There's a flying omoplata. You know, it's such an unpredictable sport. It's why you love it. But the way they were selling the fight, like Nate Diaz can take a sledgehammer to the chin and nothing bad will ever happen to him. He got knocked out not too long ago.
That's right.
2 years ago, he got Josh Thompson hit him with a head kick and put him out cold. So and then they managed to wipe that slate clean and kind of build him as this robot that can be sent to Earth to just take punches to the face. It's ridiculous. But if that's the way that they wanted to market the sport, you know, I think they could go a different direction, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, you know, I agree on the marketing angle. Like, you know, it was always, you know, historically the UFC, it was always marketed, you know, as like a gladiatorial combat, like the pinnacle of athleticism and sport and technique meeting in the cage, rather than this guy hates this guy, that guy hates that guy, they're going to kill each other, come and watch it. You know, it was more of a, yeah, it was like, you know, based on athleticism and skill rather than just adversarial.
People, even with this last build-up, And I don't think if Nate Diaz is involved in a fight, Nate or Nick Diaz involved in a fight, it's genuine. The fans don't think they're being had or being lied to. You know, he sits across from Conor, and Conor's saying F you, and Nate Diaz is screaming it back, F you, F you. And the shit talk for this fight was kept pretty simple. But I think you can only get away with that with the Diaz brothers. If you chuck is on there and, you know, they start doing that same thing. Oh, F this, man, F that. But that's not actually what they're like. So I think you have to, shit talk in your style of shit talk. What we can lead into is Dominic Cruz. I think he's bringing a high level of shit talk to the game. You know, the way he's breaking down Cody Garbrandt, the way he gets in fighters' heads. He doesn't just come out with something simple and tell them, oh, I'm going to knock you out, man. He really explains to them why. He explains to Garbrandt, he says, you're a power hitter. You rely on catching guys and knocking them out. I am the least hit fighter in UFC history. I'm the least hit fighter of all time in any division. You are not going to hit me. How do you plan on knocking me out when you can't touch me? So it's high level shit talk, you know, and then Garbrandt's kind of stumped. Yeah, I'm gonna knock you out, man. It's like you're gonna have to advance your shit talk to kind of meet that level.
Yeah, that's right. Dominic Cruz, you know, obviously elite at everything he does, and his talk is no exception to that. Cody Garbrandt had a couple of things to say in response. He talks about how he knocked Mitsugaki out this past weekend in 48 seconds, which was faster than Dominic Cruz. No real surprise there because, you know, as Cruz says,
that was a tailor-made opponent. Like,
that's right.
So this is how the matchmakers did it. Dominic Cruz beat Mitsugaki to earn the title shot. They're trying to build Cody title shot. So they give him Mitsugaki. Mitsugaki is a Japanese. He's well mixed up, but he's a vet. You know, he's taken a lot of shots. He takes punishment, and he's well rounded, and he perseveres through. But hungry young lion Mitsugaki was tailor-made because he was going to stand there and he was going to exchange with Garbrandt, which is the only way that Garbrandt is going to catch you and going to beat you. Will Dominic Cruz do that? Heck no. But it's the biggest selling fight for Dominic at the moment, so it's the one he's hunting.
Yeah, no, that's right. You know, arguably he's beaten most of the other challengers there are in his division, except save a few. So, you know, Cody Garbrandt at this stage, he's the most successful alpha male. He's basically the only one flying a positive, well, you know, an incredibly positive and unbeaten flag for them. And you know, he obviously rates his power and his excitement. I agree that Dominic Cruz outclasses him at the moment in the build-up, and you know, when it comes to the cage, he can outmove anyone. And someone like Cody Garbrandt, who is like a classic heavy hitter, it'll be a hard night at the office for him. Yeah,
this fight is not good for Cody Garbrandt. He's going to get outclassed in the shit talk and then outclassed in the cage. I don't see it going his way at all.
Yeah, speaking of people who had a big game leading up to 202, Platinum Mike Perry, who was someone I had never heard of in the past, he obviously had a bit of a production at the weigh-ins. A lot of people calling him incredibly disrespectful, you know, built a lot of hype for himself, got in the cage and performed when it mattered. What did you think of that fight?
Yeah, my friend actually alerted me to that. My friend's, oh, check this guy. He's actually really good. Like, he's a knockout hitter. And yeah, he was a dick at the weigh-ins, and he put his hand out to shake hands, took it away, and you know, kind of sliced his throat. But my mate said that's what he's actually like. You know, he's just he's naturally. So that's what I like to see. Like, Conor McGregor, I can take his shit talk because I legitimately think that's how he processes things, and that's what he's actually like. Dominic Cruz, the way he talks, that's what he's like. So if you're being natural and you're being yourself, like if you're actually that hyped up of a guy, you get that emotional at the weigh-in and do something stupid and crazy, but, you know, that's just you're just letting your personality fly, then I think that's fine. And I think the fans kind of enjoy that, and they dig on that. There's nothing the fans hate more than being lied to. When you come out and you say, I'm a badass, I'm a killer, and it's not true. Like, they hate being lied to, and they hate fake personas. As soon as they find out that you've got a fake persona going on, they're gonna ring you, man. They're gonna rip you apart, a la John Jones acting Mr. Nice Guy, constantly getting in trouble, constantly getting arrested. It's like, why don't you just, you know, we're all human, just be yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, John Jones, you know, the point you raised about him, you know, having such a false, you know, pretense and an image that is so far away from what we've seen as is the truth. Speaking of John Jones, obviously, John Jones' dick pills have been in the news this week. You know, the defense that a 28-year-old at the peak of, you know, his athletic prowess, etc., needs a bit of help in that department. Is there anything you wanted to sort of, like, have you got any thoughts on that as a defense?
Man, he's got enough money to pay enough lawyers to find him a good way out for this. Whatever he was taking, I'm sure that they had this kind of pre-planned, or this is not the first time this has happened. You know, the dick pill defense, we've seen it be successful in the past. You know, John Jones would have sat around with his team of lawyers, his team of doctors, and they kind of would have drawn to this conclusion. They're going to take the hit on the PR side of the dick pills, but if that's the way he wants to go with, man, I would just take the steroids on the chin rather than the dick pills.
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, it's like, do you want to say your dick didn't work, or do you want to say that you're a cheater? It's a tough one, but you know, I guess that's something I just wanted to touch on. Your thoughts on Rumble versus Bones as a fight? Like, how do you see that fight going, if that's the one?
You know, so Rumble's definitely earned his shot at DC. He's definitely earned a shot at the champ with a performance like that. You come out and you knock someone out in 13 seconds. Like, it was a number one. It was a shot. The next guy of that gets a title shot. You know, he went out and knocked him out in 13 seconds. He does deserve the shot. Would say a Rumble after beating Jones, that builds more hype for the next fight. So I would really love to see that fight. You know, I think Rumble fighting DC now, you know, the DC's victory is still kind of fresh in everyone's mind over Rumble. Like, he really did ride him in that fight. He took that one shot, he's recovered from that, and then he just rode him out, man. So I'd like to see Rumble fight Jones and then fight DC. I think that for me personally, it builds more hype for the title fight.
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, Rumble, if he's successful, that'll lift his credentials. You know, it gives him that extra time to work on his whatever part of his game he feels he needs to work on, like probably his grappling side or takedown defense before he takes on DC again. And then DC, you know, he is at this stage is the only person to be able to take AJ on the chin and still grind out the win. So it's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to. But and I'd love to see Bones versus Rumble. That fight is just, you know, whatever happens in that fight, I think it'll be incredibly exciting.
Well, it's kind of easy to see Rumble's game now. He's just trying to land that one shot. So if you can avoid that one shot or draw that one shot out and kind of counter it, I don't think we're going to see him around for forever. You know, is he going to be the longest reigning champion of all time with that style? No, he might win the belt. He might defend the belt, establish a legacy with that sort of a game plan. You know, a DC kind of style, he'll be able to hold on to the belt a bit longer with the, you know, GSP kind of same style.
That's right. Yeah.
Like it's not conservative approach, but it's the smart approach to beating elite level fighters with an elite skill set. The kind of Cody Garbrandt Anthony Rumble, I'm going to punch you on the chin. If it doesn't work, I'm going to
Mm.
lose kind of style is not that great for longevity in this sport.
Speaking of style, do you think Conor McGregor at this stage could be put into that kind of the similar group as those guys? You know, he relies on more heavy-handed striking than any other facet of his game.
Yeah, well, we're kind of seeing that now. Like what we saw in the Diaz rematch was like a very simplified version of what we've seen of Conor McGregor in the past, which is he's kind of showing his stripes. I've been saying all along that you go back and you watch his highlight reel, it's left hand after left hand after left hand on the chin, hitting guys. They're getting caught with the same punch. You know, his crouching tiger, hidden shadows, spinning back kicks. They're beautiful. They're good. And yeah, if they hit you, you would be in trouble. But has he landed any of those kicks? No, they're kind of like a diversion for the fans. They see that and they get a bit of excitement. And he uses them to pressure a fighter to start moving towards his left hand. But that is really his key weapon. And we're kind of seeing that now. And when he fights an intelligent striker that understands that and understands how to defend this kind of single type of weapon, then I think he's in a bit more trouble. Like the more time you spend in that UFC cage and don't evolve, the more it shows. You know, because it's evident there. I can go back now and I can watch 25 minutes of film on Conor McGregor doing these simple things, you know, and I can study that and I can break that down and say the guy that fights him next, does Conor have enough time to add a new wrinkle or show a new wrinkle in his game, or are we going to see him come out and try land a straight left hand again? If he has to constantly evolve, so he has to keep evolving and going away like he did. You know, he went off to Iceland, he went and he evolved, but he came back with this simple kind of game plan. But he has to keep evolving and adding new things to his game because there's too much video evidence otherwise. If he comes in, does another 25-minute fight, same thing again. He's kind of shown his stripes and shown all he has to kind of prove in the octagon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was good to see that he came back. You know, like you say, he'd stripped his style back completely to the basics. The game plan he used, leg kicks and pressure, etc. That was probably a game plan that 80% of Muay Thai coaches across the world would have told him to use if he'd gone to them. You know, just that leg kicks on someone who's heavy on their front foot, that is gold all day. And you know, he even mentioned in the post-fight press conference that his leg was killing him, and you know that it shows that it's a wrinkle that he tried to add very, very late comparatively to other people like yourself who have been kicking legs for years. Yeah,
like he was hammering that leg, but maybe they didn't work on the efficiency of his leg kick too much because he was staying rather simple. They didn't get any big scrambles. And then in about the end of the second round, we started to see Conor kind of gas. And I've talked with a few fighters about it. And even sometimes the idea of gassing gets you gassed. So it's like coming through like the end of the second round, and that's when things kind of all went south for McGregor in the first fight. And you could kind of see for a few minutes, Conor was thinking about that. He mentally thought, oh fuck, this is the time that I hit that wall. Nate turned it up, and I got finished. So he kind of shut down. He started thinking about being tired, and it gassed him out. It tensed him up, and it gassed him out. Fourth and fifth rounds, we seen him come back and kind of completely recover or rejuvenate, and he worked his way through that mentally, which is a good sign for future things to come.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was thoroughly impressed by Conor and Nate in the fight. You know, I'm not a huge Conor fan by any means, and I am a Diaz fan. Again, not huge, but you know, the fight, seeing that Conor had upskilled himself. Seeing his takedown defense, which was almost 25 minutes, almost 25 minutes he defended the takedown, was great to see. Seeing him add the leg kick was great to see. But yeah, you're absolutely right. In that second round, there was a bit there when he just had a bit of a panic look in his eye, and you could see that he was replaying the first fight in his head again.
Oh, there's no way you could possibly avoid that. So as a fighter, there's no way you could completely block that out. It's something you have to deal with and overcome, which he did do. With that moment, he relived the exact moment that his whole life collapsed. So he relived that moment, and he worked through that moment, and he was successful in that moment. So that shows a big, it's props to him from me, because he's shown a big wrinkle in his character, that he can grow and he can overcome these kind of hardships, which is tough, because 99.99% of fighters don't get that second chance straight away. I've had a couple of rematches luckily come my way, and I relished the chance, to kind of get that one back and relive that one. Because in the first fight, say I lost, I knew I was better, or I knew I could do better. Everyone thinks they can do better, or else you wouldn't be in the sport. So to see him come back and get that chance was him calling for that fight. Really, no one else could have made that happen. No one else could have taken a loss like that and say, I want a rematch straight away. No. Let's sign this contract for millions of dollars. No one else is getting away with that. So him getting out of the PR thing, that was too much. The UFC gave him the fight. They're not going to give him the fight and may have him not do any PR. I think it was a big call for the UFC just to give him that rematch.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nate Diaz commented similar to that. When the rematch was being talked about at the start, he said, there isn't a fighter alive who doesn't want a loss back as a rematch, and exactly right, there isn't a competitive sports player, athlete, professional, amateur that wouldn't want to avenge a loss. So for Conor to get that chance and then to actually follow through and execute when he had the chance, that was great to see. And he definitely made a fan out of me.
Yeah, oh man, I just enjoyed that fight as a fan. Someone turns to me straight after the fight, oh, who do you think won? I wasn't keeping count. I was just enjoying that fight as a fan. I was enjoying the entertainment aspect of the sport. It's back and forth, the highs and lows. Oh, he's knocked out. Oh, Conor's about to get finished. Nate's about to get finished. It was back and forth, man. I just really enjoyed that fight. As a fan, I can picture myself sitting in the Coliseum, more blood. It's the kind of fight it was.
Yeah, no, it was a brilliant fight. Money fight. I believe the disclosed payouts were $2 million for Diaz, $3 million for Conor. So, money. There's plenty of money there for those guys. Yep. Now, moving on, something Joe Rogan has called for, which is still on the discussion, kind of, is he's put his hat out and said he would like to see Nick Diaz versus Conor. Now that I don't think there's any value in that fight at all for Conor. Nick is the more accomplished boxer. He's bigger. He's more experienced. What do you think of that?
That's a terrible fight. That's way off. Nick walks around, 200, 205?
Yeah.
He fought Anderson at 84 kilo. He fought him. There's no way. He's too big.
Yeah, what even division would that be in? The least Nick would go to would be welterweight, and that's Conor's ceiling. That Conor doesn't want to fight there again. He's already asked for the future fight to be at 155, if anything. So. I don't know.
Joe Rogan just secretly wants Conor to get his ass beat.
Maybe he does. Maybe
That's
he
pretty much
feels
what he's saying. I don't see that fight going well at all for Conor. I think it's walked right over in that fight.
Yeah, yeah. Nick Diaz could come off 2 days' notice and probably walk through that fight. I'm not sure what the motivation is there. Now, if just a possible idea here, what do you think of the idea of UFC 209 being headlined by Nick Diaz versus GSP 2 and Nate Diaz versus Conor 3? Obviously 209, it's part of their whole thing. UFC 209 is not far away, so that sounds like money to me. Would you make that if you were a matchmaker?
Well,
Would you make that?
that'll be the third GSP fight, right?
Would it? Oh yes.
Have they fought
Wait,
fight?
I thought. Let me just see.
We got to double check.
Um,
Maybe they were matched and he got popped for weed or something.
yeah, I think UFC 158 is the only time they fought. So
I'd like to see Nick Diaz fight someone that's gonna fight him.
like stand up fight him.
Yeah, someone that's not purely stand up, but someone
No.
that's not just gonna. GSP's gonna. I don't want to see that shit again.
If Carlos Condit won this coming weekend, yeah. What about that rematch?
Give him someone. I want to see him fight someone good and dumb. Not someone. Carlos fought him smart too. Carlos kicked the leg. He moved. He teeped. He. There is a obvious way to beat the Diaz brothers, but that's not entertainment. I want to see, man, Lawler. That's a sick fight. Nick Diaz.
Oh yeah.
Lawler.
The rematch as well.
They're gonna mix it up on the feet. Man,
the talk will be strong. Like plenty of marketing behind that. Robbie Lawler will be screaming his head off, and that would be great actually. Lawler Diaz rematch, and then Conor Diaz rematch. That's money.
Conor's options now, the Eddie Alvarez or Jose Aldo, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, either 155 or I guess vacate 145 and.
But the thing is, he wants to be a dual weight world champion. He wants winning the 55 title and vacating the 45 title makes him a single weight champion. So his thing is he wants to hold both the belts at the same time. He might give that up. The smart business move would be taking the belt at 55, fighting Eddie Alvarez, taking that fight. The Jose Aldo fight is not going anywhere. Jose Aldo is not going anywhere. Jose Aldo is always going to want that rematch. And you got to think, can things go better than the first fight? No, they can't. Then why would you do a second fight? There's no point. What, for less money? Conor's going to get less money and a worse result. So how does that at all make business sense? What makes sense is trying for the belt at 55 and then defending it against Nate.
Oh, wow. Imagine that. Wow, I hadn't even considered that. You just blew my mind with that. Dan the Hangman Hooker, everyone. That's why he's here. No, man, that is a huge fight. That rematch, if they could
maybe defend the belt, UFC 209.
Wow, that would take a lot of orchestration. Like there would have to be a quick turnaround between to get Alvarez and Conor on. But man, if they could ever somehow magically get that to happen, that would be huge.
Man, crazier things that happen in this MMA world.
Well, true. Brock Lesnar fought on UFC 200 with a month's notice to the public. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So looking forward to this weekend. Actually, let's look forward a bit further to UFC Melbourne. That was announced last weekend, just before the pay-per-view. Yeah, that's right. We were hanging out for it, definitely, and I know you've been hanging out for it as well. What do you think? Any news, any rumors, anything that you've got to say?
Well, I've been saying. So it's good to hear that it's been matched. It was either going to be Melbourne or Sydney. They were saying if they were going to Melbourne, they were only going to do a stadium show. But they've come and they're not doing a stadium show in Melbourne. So it's good. I think man, I was hearing Whitaker fighting Chris Weidman
Oh wow.
in, but on the Madison Square Garden card.
Oh, okay.
I thought that would headline
Yeah, an Aussie
the
card.
Melbourne card. I thought Weidman versus Whitaker headlining the Melbourne card would be the only real option for a main event currently for like the Australian market. So it's got to be like Whitaker versus someone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's that's what we were thinking because Robert Whitaker's just recovered from hand surgery. He had a minor surgery, came out of that a few weeks ago. So yeah, we thought that. See that fight. You mentioned Weidman versus Whitaker for New York. That wouldn't be a main event, would it? That would be
No, that would
like
be the main, I think.
right, yeah, because
But I think
that fight,
they got to put Weidman on that card.
yeah, because he's got massive appeal in New York and East Coast there. So yeah, that's yeah, I like that fight. I'd like to see that fight. That's
I'd
a
like to
good
see
fight
that
for
fight
Robert
in
Whitaker.
Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'd be epic to see it in Melbourne. I know that Lucas and Arnaud, the other two admins from Combat Sports NZ, are both going over, and so and yourself, you got plans to be traveling there, obviously.
Oh man, like I'm banking on getting on that card for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I know last time we spoke, you're incredibly keen. Any fights at the moment that make sense to you for that card?
For me personally, I think it's just kind of wait and see. I have options. There's guys I would like to fight, of course. Like I would like to be on the main card and have a bigger name guy. I think I've definitely deserved it.
For sure.
And then take a couple of names, knock a few guys out, and get that card back over the ditch, back in New Zealand. Maybe
Yeah, that'd
North
be
Island,
brilliant.
South Island, but back in New Zealand is really the primary object. Free knockouts, I'll headline UFC New Zealand. There we go.
Nice. Yeah, I remember I went to UFC Auckland, your UFC debut. We were up in the nosebleed section, me and my girlfriend and a few mates, and that was still the highlight of the night for me when you were talking to Ken Florian in the cage afterwards, and he was like, "Tell us about it," blah blah blah, and you were just like, "Stand up, New Zealand!" and everyone just like jumped out of their seats and screamed for you, man. That was just one of the best UFC nights of my life, man. That was awesome, and yeah, I'd
that
love
was
to
crazy.
see you.
I haven't felt an atmosphere like that again. Fighting in Aussie is pretty cool. Like it's like you get a lot of love fighting over there, but nothing like fighting at home, man. I can't wait till UFC comes back. Get a couple of mates on the card, and we'll just stack that thing out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so definitely looking forward to an announcement for you for Melbourne. Looking forward to this weekend, UFC Vancouver, main card, main event, Maya Condit. And then you got Pettis on the card, you got Lozon Miller, you got Rowdy Beck representing Aussie versus Paige Van Zandt. So that's a huge card for a free one. Your thoughts on the Pettis versus Oliveira matchup?
That's a sick fight, man.
Mm.
I only saw that the other day. Like that was well off my radar. I've only just seen that fight. That's a crazy good fight. Like, I'm trying to think how that one goes. I'm not sure if Oliveira has the wrestling to implement on Pettis. I think it might be a striking affair, to be honest.
Mm. Yeah, I would see the grappling possibly cancelling each other out, eh?
Yeah, well, Pettis' takedown defense is kind of shot through the roof. He's a bigger guy. So this is Pettis coming down to featherweight for the first time, right? There was another guy, Miles Jury, came down to fight Charles Oliveira, and Oliveira missed weight 2 kilos. So right under the limit where the fight, so he has to pay his 20%. That's done, but it's under the limit where the fight can't get cancelled.
Yep.
So, and then Oliveira's excuse was, "Oh no, but my scale said I was on weight." So, but I really think it was that's a big mind trick. I was thinking that was Oliveira playing mind games because this guy's cut all this weight, He's coming down to featherweight for the first time ever, which means he's really dedicated like the last few months of dieting and starving.
Yeah.
And then you're fighting a featherweight, you stand on the scales and he stands on 2 kilos over. You know, you've died for those two. You're dying for those 2 kilos. And he's standing on the scales 2 kilos heavier. It's going to play on you. It's going to piss you off and it's going to get in your head. So I think it was actually a ploy used by Oliveira. So we'll see if he does it again or if the UFC is going to really get on him about that.
Well, dude, 2 kgs is, you know, that's not 2 pounds. Like 2 kgs is, what is that, 4.5 pounds?
6 pounds.
Dude, you know, like that's a huge mistake to make if it was indeed a mistake. So, you know, your theory about it being more of a mind game, because, you know, giving up 20% of your show money, but then winning the entire win money, that, you know, for a lot of people, that equation would work out, you know.
Yeah, like it's a calculated move, you know. To win the fight, you're going to get more money than if your 20% show money, and then you say
you're going to be more energetic potentially, you know.
It's just a big mental thing. Like that guy works so hard to get down to that weight, and then you just came in 2 kilos over. Like it's a big mental ploy I think he used.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see if he tries to do anything similar for the Pettis fight. You know, that, like you say, that fight is incredibly difficult to try and pick a winner. You know, the skill sets there could match up perfectly, and we could see a really exciting long fight. Moving up to Rowdy Beck versus the UFC's golden child, Paige Van Zandt. Rowdy Beck, I'm a fan of Rowdy Beck. I think she's, you know, her fighting ability, I think she's a scrapper. And Paige Van Zandt, she's shown that she does deserve to be in the octagon. What do you think of that fight? Any takes from that you want to share?
Yeah, I think it's a massive opportunity for Beck to put Paige's name on her record. Like it's very winnable fight for Beck. You know, there's no reason why she can't win that fight and really win it in an exciting fashion, and then set herself up for a big fight in UFC Melbourne. Probably, if she takes out Paige, she's probably looking at a co-main slot for that fight, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she does lots of good marketing. Like, you know, she's incredibly marketable. She does the work on the social media, etc. So she's a good one for drumming up a lot of heat for a fight. Yeah, I agree with you. That would be a good co-main. You know, it's always good to have a ladies fight on the main card as a co-main as well. We had a short run of female fights as main events, so I'm definitely one for that. Probably my favorite fight on the card, well, on the main card at least, Joe Lauzon versus Jim Miller 2. You know, those guys always bring it. I've been a fan of Joe Lauzon since I saw him on Tough, and Jim Miller, I'll always watch a Jim Miller fight because, you know that something's going to be happening during that 15 minutes, and it generally won't even last 15. Who have you got?
Yeah, I think I got Lauzon in this fight. Like Jim's kind of closing down shop as he kind of gets older. He went on this good run for a minute, man, and he was taking out a lot of guys. But I think he's kind of done his dash, and Joe Lauzon's got more left in the tank, I think, for this fight.
Yeah, that's right. Joe Lauzon is an incredibly energetic fighter, and, you know, keeps a high pace and just puts everything into everything. So I think he's incredibly exciting. You know, I picture an early finish, maybe hurts Jim Miller on the feet potentially or against the cage, and then works his way down to the ground for a finish. Joe Lauzon known for just jumping on anything he sees, so definitely exciting. But Jim Miller is a grizzly competitor. He's a veteran, absolutely, and I agree. He is sort of going into that sort of twilight, winding his way down period, but he could still be dangerous to anyone.
He's definitely one of those fighters that he like his toughness is what got him to the position he's at now, but it's also going to lead to his downfall. You know, that toughness in training, grinding through training sessions. But you grind for training sessions for 10 years, and your body's going to be at a different point. You grind through sparring sessions. You spar and you take shots that you don't have to, or you go into fights. You never turn down a fight, so you fight injured. You fight, you get hit, you get knocked out. You take another fight quick because you just want to get back in there. So it's like he's shown his grit and toughness, but that kind of runs out after a while. I think every fighter's lifespan has only been given a certain amount of toughness or a certain amount of grift, and you can use it up, and then you become like Chinny, or that kind of leads to your downfall. Your body's full of injuries, and your chin's not what it used to be. And I think Jim's in that position now.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen it in the past. Some of the greats like Chuck Liddell went from having a chin made of granite reinforced with steel to just, not really being able to take shots anymore. If you look at other greats like Anderson Silva back in the day, he could play with people all day. He could take it on the chin here and there. And now, he's been put out by Chael Sonnen in the clinch, getting dropped. So, Chael Sonnen not known to be a power striker himself. So it's definitely plays to the point that there is a shelf life for the attributes that it takes to have longevity in the game of MMA.
Yeah, well, it's you play with fire, you're eventually going to get burnt. Anderson had the longest running playing with fire in UFC history, and he eventually got caught, and it happens to everyone. Everyone is human. Name one fighter that's got out of this sport unscathed. Name one fighter that's got out being a champion and undefeated. Boxing, we've seen Mayweather. Does MMA have a Mayweather? No, there's too many ways to lose. If you've got through undefeated, then you really haven't been tested, or you haven't fought anyone. This is not the way you market the sport like boxing. These undefeated guys, 22-0. Man, outside of UFC, your record, it really doesn't mean anything. Your in UFC record, you're starting from scratch. You have your UFC debut, and you are 0-0 again. And you're really starting again. So that's my opinion on the sport. I don't think it should be marketed like, this guy is unbeatable. You can hit him with a shovel, and he'll be fine. Like, everyone's human. That's why it's exciting. Anyone can lose.
Yeah, no, that's right. MMA is such a multifaceted game, and human beings are all so different that when you combine that variety with the variety of MMA. And something that we wanted to have a chat about is more of a discussion about versus tactics. And, Dan, is that something you wanted to expand on, like your use of strategy versus your use of tactics, and how you think people might want to apply that to the MMA game?
Yeah, well, strategy and tactics, they're similar. So it's really, it comes down to the fighter, what kind of style that you want to kind of pursue when you first, because every fighter has a game. There is only a certain amount of time you can put into certain aspects of the sport. So if you focus on being a purest grappler, then you also need the tools to put that into effect. You need the striking to be on a competent level that you can set up your takedowns. Your takedowns have to be good enough to get it to your skill set. So that then becomes your overall game plan, your overall game. And every fighter, we have different body types. Some guy's tall and long. He's obviously not going to be a Mike Tyson head movement kind of style of fighter. Same thing, you're not going to have Mike Tyson come out and be a triangle expert, because it's not built for his body type. So these styles all become a fighter's game. So it's their overall picture of what they want to accomplish in the sport. And these match up with other fighters well or negatively, striker versus grappler. Then it comes down to whose wrestling is better. So that becomes and then as you get a specific opponent, you can implement your strategy or your game plan towards that fight, and then that becomes more of a focused goal, and then you're going to have tactics within that fight. So it's strategy and tactics and game plan. They're 3 stages of the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you know, my understanding of strategy is like your strategy would be your overall game, like your campaign plan to get to the title or to get to that goal that you have to get to that stage. You know, people who aren't fighters, you know, to lose that weight or to gain that muscle, to get that car, that job, whatever. And then your tactics are the smaller strategies that you use along the way to build your steps to get to those goals. So, you know, like, it's definitely something that everyone could use, you know, in terms of the fight game in any sport. You know, it's a huge part of it. To break it down to the level that you need to is something that I know you're a huge fan of. So, you know, what sort of things yourself would you consider as crucial markers that you want to be hitting along the way, like just in your training at least?
Yeah, well, you're talking about using like strategy as overall goals. So obviously, like my ultimate goal is to hold that belt. It's what's next. Who do I have to fight to kind of get to that belt? What do I have to do? You know, you have to build your marketing up. You know, you have to increase exposure. Same thing for a fighter starting out. You know, he wants to start his pro career. His ultimate goal is the UFC, getting in the UFC, you know? So how does he do that? He creates a Facebook page. So you start small and these things kind of build. So you have your ultimate goal, then you have your smaller goals, and then I guess your strategy is just working your smaller goal to smaller goal to smaller goal and kind of progressing towards your ultimate accomplishment that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's right. If we, again, talking about Diaz McGregor, if you saw the Bad Blood, which I'm sure you did, you know, it sounds like Nate Diaz formulated a strategy to get to that McGregor fight, which started when he saw the Go Big press conference, then his Michael Johnson fight, then obviously straight after that, he called out McGregor directly, and then that was really the beginning of that ride for him. So, yeah, that's an example of using the small strategies and tactics along the way to get to your overall end game. And, you know, you look at that, he just got paid $2 million to fight McGregor again. So that's huge.
If we look back to that exact event that Nate called him out, I think there was 5 different fighters or more than that. So there's 5 at that particular event that called out McGregor. So they all had it in line as part of their strategy, but it only worked out for one guy.
Yeah, that's right. And he sort of tied everything back to that press conference, because his comments were, I can't believe everyone up there didn't say anything and no one even threw a water bottle. And then when he was leaving that 202 pre-fight presser, it was like water bottles, cans of Monster and everything. So, you know, he is either a marketing genius or he just knows how to tell the best stories based on what's happened. You know, they have to sell
the fight with some sort of angle, man.
Yeah, that's right. You know, that the marketing in the UFC is definitely something that we've talked about a lot. You know, like you say, people who it's not intrinsic in their character to be like that. You don't want to see them trying to push that kind of an angle.
Yeah, there's so many different kinds of shit talk that not one is appealing. Like I like to see more. The Dominic Cruz shit talk is really impressing me lately. Conor, when he originally started, he would break his opponent down and he'd really get in their mind by exploiting their weaknesses. That got me. This new kind of just Nate Diaz-esque. Only those two can pull it off. My message to young fighters: don't try to emulate Nate Diaz, because that's an original stamp that only those two can get away with, man. No one else is going to get away with that.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And like you say, it does seem that Connor's talk went from being like quite high level, cerebral. Like if you look back to the Dustin Poirier fight, he had broken him down in the embeddeds and stuff, and it looked like he was getting inside Dustin's head. And then when it came to the Diaz run, like he just didn't have an answer for it in the first presser run, and in the second one, obviously, when Nate Diaz can say, "Just look at the score, bro," like it's pretty tough to talk your way
Oh,
out of that.
impossible. But yeah, like arguing for Diaz brother is like getting in a fight with a brick wall. It's kind of one-way traffic. He's just gonna tell you to f yourself. It's kind of on repeat, but it's good, and it's bad. It's bad for you because you're not getting an exchange. It's one-way traffic, and you're getting the same answer every time. So it's back to his high-level kind of breaking fighters down mentally strategy that he was going with. I think it will work well against Eddie. Eddie, to me, seems like a really emotional guy.
Yep. Yeah, very, very emotional from what I've seen of him, even before the UFC. He definitely runs on emotion. He takes a lot from the crowd. He takes a lot from his his proud upbringing in Philadelphia and the history that Philadelphia has in combat sports. So if I would love to see that trash talk because, Conor McGregor, if he can get back to those roots of his where he just dominates people's minds, he could rattle Eddie Alvarez and be the champ. You never know.
Yeah, I think Eddie to me is very hittable. I went back and studied Eddie for the RDA fight, and he's very hittable. That's a winnable fight for Conor. I think it's a really good matchup per se for Conor. I think if I was in his position, I would fight Eddie next for the lightweight title. For sure. It's a very winnable fight. He's very hittable, and Conor does have the power to put him away. So I can see Conor knocking Eddie out for sure.
Yeah, I could too. And Eddie Alvarez, we've seen in previous fights, like the Cerrone fight springs to mind, where he's more than willing to just like those two at one point, they just had each other's necks and they were just bam, 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 and there was like WWE sort of stuff. But
I honestly went back and I watched like every Eddie Alvarez fight, his old fights, his Bellator fights.
Yeah.
Before that, he fought in Japan, and he gets dropped in damn near every single fight he's ever been in his life. He's been knocked down in.
Yeah.
As soon as his opponent knocks him down, tries to finish him, he turns the fight around and wins somehow and knocks the other guy out. But with a guy like Conor's power and accuracy and hitting that button on the chin, and he's very composed and knows how to finish, it's a different fight. Obviously, Eddie could come out and blast him like he did RDA. That's the sport. We fight 10 times. Doesn't mean the same thing's going to happen every time. But it's a winnable fight for Conor, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely a fight where the styles would make it absolutely winnable for Conor. If you're willing to take shots and you've got someone who's so powerful and accurate for the weight division, if you look at every scenario where Conor has finished a fighter that he's dropped, it's always the same, very measured, just 1, 2, 3 strikes and the guy's done. He's not like trying to kill them. He's just putting people away. And if he hurt Eddie Alvarez, who's been hurt a lot in the past, I could see him finishing it really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. He can find his chin. Like, he's a hittable guy.
Yeah. No, that would be a great fight, and that would set up an epic rematch for the belt.
What's that worst case scenario? He loses to Eddie. He goes back and fights Aldo. Like, he vacates the title for the fight. Aldo goes and fights someone else Max Holloway. And then at the worst case scenario, Conor comes back down and fights either of them. Like, he's still got fights. He hasn't. he can always come back and say, "Oh well, I'm still the best at 45." Blah blah blah.
At this division, yeah, that's right. How would obviously Max Holloway, probably one of the best performances versus Conor, and when he was quite a bit younger. Sorry. What are your thoughts on a rematch there, Holloway McGregor 2?
Oh, that's a very different fight, man. From the Conor fight, kind of Max has just kind of skyrocketed. Fighters have these big changes now and then. We see it, but we've definitely seen it in Max Holloway. He's jumped this elite level since that Conor fight, and he's really advanced himself. He's showing some really impressive footwork and movement and range and control, and yeah, he's really impressing me. I'd like to see him fight these higher level guys. I think I'd like to see him fight Aldo or a rematch with McGregor. So I want a big fight for him. He's really earned it. 9 wins in a row, and he doesn't get a title shot. Like, that's unheard of.
Yeah, that's right. And again, that's right. He's gone from 7-3 with his unanimous decision loss to Conor McGregor, now to 16-3. So the guy is killing it. That Ricardo Lamas fight was awesome. It was towards the end of the fight. They both just looked at each other. Max Holloway just pointed at the ground, and they just got in their stance and just threw down. Man, that was exciting. As obviously. Well, potentially, I wouldn't prescribe that kind of a mentality for a Conor rematch. What sort of game plan would you have for him going in if you were part of his coaching staff? And
he showed a very advanced understanding of. So he's obviously been working it because he's had the idea of rematching Conor. What we saw against Lamas, he used a southpaw stance, and it was a southpaw versus southpaw exchange. Mm. And he really dominated that. He was cutting him off, and that fight is so much different the next time around. The Conor versus Holloway fight, so much different. Conor still has the power over Holloway. Holloway still doesn't have that kind of one punch. He's a volume striker, and he kind of hurts guys. But Conor has shown that he doesn't have the best gas tank in the world either. So can he match the pace for a 5-round fight against Holloway? I think it's a different story,
Yeah, well, that's right. If Conor still has a bit of a stigma about his gas tank in the second round, third round, etc., Max Holloway potentially has more tools to take advantage of that than someone like a Nate Diaz, who is seasoned and a veteran, but a bit more basic compared to a Max Holloway. Yeah, looking at his record, he absolutely deserves a title fight. Immediately. He has just gone through and dismantled a lot of great fighters. So that would be a fight I'd love to see.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Well, anything you would like to talk about, Dan?
Let me think. We got a few Kiwi boys lined up for big shows and big events. We got XFC. I think there's a bunch of guys. Karen Joblin's fighting on that card. He's best lightweight in Australasia currently. So he's fighting another guy on that card. So it's always good to see him in action. One of the Vake brothers is back on there. Brogan Anderson, one of New Zealand's best welterweights, coming up. He's fighting on that card as well. So there's some good international fights for Kiwis. We got that Brace show coming up back in the South Island. Massive opportunity for New Zealand guys to get seen on Fight Pass. It's showing them the way. You get on Brace New Zealand. You get your name out there on the UFC Fight Pass, and you really start building yourself and getting that exposure. I guarantee the UFC matchmakers are watching all of those fights. I guarantee it. I 100% guarantee the UFC matchmakers watching those fights with close eyes. So if you want a shot, you start impressing on that level, and you'll get their eyes, and you'll get them following you.
Yeah, that's right. it is a perfect platform now. They've kind of, like you say, they've put a bit of a road in place for people. Get yourself on these particular regional shows, work your way up. Once you're on Fight Pass, you are in front of the eyes of the world, and it doesn't matter which fight you are. Like, for someone who's fighting on a regional card or anything like that, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity. Speaking of opportunity, a good friend of yours, Kai Kara France.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just got himself out of the Ultimate Fighter house, so he's on the next season of the Ultimate Fighter. Man, keep your eyes on this kid. I'm not sure of the result yet. It's pretty tight-lipped. What's happened on the show, I haven't talked to Kai thoroughly yet. But man, I'm excited for this kid. He's the future. I'm gonna bank on him getting a UFC contract at some stage. So there's another Kiwi to support in the UFC, and another Kiwi that's gonna be putting on some damn impressive performances in the future.
Yeah, that's right. That premieres next Thursday, the 1st of September, on Sky Sport. So that's definitely one to watch out for. Kai Kara France, an awesome New Zealand talent. The Ultimate Fighter Tournament of Champions. I like the format for it. Everyone having to be champions in a federation of their own right. I think it's great. Previously, it kind of feels like some of the Ultimate Fighter seasons don't feel as earned as previous seasons, and this season definitely would, because they're all champions, etc. We've got the Brace show you mentioned, which is happening again live from Christchurch on October the 1st, so that's a month after that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Next week, September the 2nd, a friend of yours and mine, Ev Ting, is fighting Rob Lasita in 1FC. So that's back in Malaysia. Obviously, best wishes to Ev there. Any thoughts from you on that fight?
Yeah, that's a fight that's been they've been trying to match for quite a while now. I think that's a real cool fight.
Headlining as well.
Like, man, these shows pack out. Like, I thought, the 1FC is not one of the bigger. Well, it's a bigger one in Asia, but I wasn't quite sure like what it was like. And then I went and watched Ed fight in Malaysia. Yeah. And I cornered him for one of his fights. And man, that thing packs out. There was about 10,000 people in the stadium in Malaysia. They are solely focused on 1FC. They got no idea what the UFC is over there. So it was cool to see, man. It was a wicked event, and I might even jump across, and I might have to swing by Malaysia and check that fight out for sure, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm definitely going to be watching it online. Obviously, I'm not going to be popping across to Malaysia like yourself, unfortunately. But yeah, that's a great fight. Headlining, another awesome 1FC event. I catch every event of theirs I can, especially when Nev's involved. And this one, could be setting him up for that rematch. Could be bigger things from here. And obviously, that's what he wants, and that's what we all want for him as well. Yeah, I won't ask you to pick a winner, but I think I know who you're going for anyway. And we've also got some other big fights coming up. We've got Stipe Miocic defending versus Reem. That's in about 2 weeks' time, September 11. That fight, I love that fight. I think their skill sets are varied, and I'm looking forward to it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, we're seeing a different Overeem now. We're seeing a very calculated Overeem. He's a very high-level striker, and he's really taking his time and not taking any risks, which is smart in the heavyweight division. Stipe is by far the most athletic heavyweight in the UFC. I'd really like to see this one play out, but I really think Overeem has a striking advantage. Maybe if Stipe can kind of force him on the mat and kind of implement his ground and pound like he did against Mark Hunt, we're going to see that style of fight from Stipe, I'm thinking. Yeah. Really pressure over him, take him down against the cage and pressure him. would benefit him the most, but because I definitely give the advantage striking wise to Overeem in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously Stipe has fought great strikers before. You mentioned Mark Hunt, who obviously has a distinct striking advantage over Stipe, and great takedown defense. So if Stipe can implement something similar to that, you know, potentially he could take this one away in an ugly finish. Reem, obviously he's another example of someone who's springboarded, found the right camp, just found the right training methods, and like his skills have gone through the roof now. You know, his takedown defense, his ability to pace himself and use his strengths rather than just relying on his striking is great. I'd love to see Stipe stop him. You know, we've seen that Stipe can stop anyone moving away from him. Whatever, you know, his knockout of Verdun was just nasty. And yeah, I'm a huge Stipe fan. I'd love to see him finish Reem again. Finish the Reem.
Oh, I'd love to see him finish the Reem. The Reem is a dick, but I try to base my decisions as impartially as possible. When you watch the fights back and you break the technique down, I try to be impartial. So, you know, I'm watching Nate, I'm watching McGregor. I try to leave all that kind of stuff at the door. You know, oh, this guy said this guy did this, because it's not really going to affect the technique or how the fight plays out. But Reem is a dick, man. He walks around like his shit doesn't stink. Stipe's like one of the coolest guys I've met, man. He's like super nice, super. So I'd like to see him win. If it was a personality contest, I'm picking Stipe, you know, tenfold. But it's a fist fight, so we'll see. I think Stipe grinds him out, but Overeem might pick that one shot off. He's always got it, man.
Yeah, that's right. He's been, you know, in the past he's shown himself to be an incredibly scary striker. So that could finish any time from either of them. The week before that, September 4th, we got Arlovsky versus Josh Barnett. Another great heavyweight fight. One that could be very ugly. We've seen Josh Barnett finish a few heavyweights quite quickly. He's always got that power. Also the same with Arlovsky. Who would you go for in that?
Man, I have a long memory, and I've been following this for a long time. Man, if you would have told me Andrei Arlovsky was coming back to the UFC after he got knocked out 5 times in a row.
Yeah, right.
I would have told you you're freaking crazy, man. I would have not guessed that. It's hard for me to forget those losses, man. You get TKO'd badly 5 times in a row. That does something to your brain, you know. That slows you down a bit. You can take a few years off of not getting hit and taking shots, but you've done some damage to your brain that's irreparable. And especially at heavyweight, a guy with power like Barnett, I'm gonna have to go with him. He's the more savvy guy. He's the smarter guy.
Yeah, he's always been active. He's always been there or thereabouts towards the top of the division, etc. I agree. Josh Barnett, I would see him being the one to take out this fight. Arlovsky's chin. I remember watching. I'm sure it was VHS or maybe like early DVDs of like the best of UFC knockouts 7 and stuff, and seeing Arlovsky just killing everyone, and then like watching like a few later, and then just Arlovsky getting knocked out by everyone. And yeah, once he left the UFC, I thought we'd never see him again. And you know, when he came back, I was shocked, like yourself. But he's always had that power. But as you say, that wear and tear on his chin and you know, his brain, etc. That stuff hasn't gone away either.
You can't forget about that kind of thing playing this game, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's all for upcoming news. Anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap it up?
No, I think I'm all talked out. Time to go hit the gym. Time to train.
Yeah, no, that's right. You know, it's good stuff. Obviously, you're about to hit another training session, Dan. Any insights into what you're working on at the moment before we go?
Oh man, I got my man Saeed over here. He's more of like a footwork specialist, and we're cooking up something good in the kitchen, making some good improvements every day, man. So I got him over here at Tiger Muay Thai. He's kind of running my camp, running my conditioning and my programming, overseeing my sparring, and just keeping an eye on my technique, making sure I'm doing the right things and constantly evolving. And man, I'm just putting in the hours at the gym and making those improvements. So you're going to see high level Dan Hooker when he comes out for that next one. The movement's there, the technique's going to be crisp and well drilled and well planned.
Awesome, Dan. I can't wait to see that. Looking forward to talking to you again on the next The Writer and the Fighter. Thank you very much. I always love catching up with you. And obviously looking forward to an announcement about Melbourne.
Yeah, me too. I'm checking my email box every day, waiting for the message.
Awesome, bro. Well, thanks a lot. Always love to catch up, and we'll talk next time.
Cheers, brother. Good to catch up.